This man has a smile that lights up a television screen from here to Bangor, Maine.
One of the greatest players of all time, Magic Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bird.
They used racism. The NBA took two of the greatest players in basketball history and turned them into weapons. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird did not just save the league. They were packaged, marketed, and sold as opposite sides of a war America was already fighting, and the league made billions while the country picked sides. 1979 was a disaster year for the NBA. The league was on life support, attendance was tanking, franchises were going bankrupt. The finals were not even shown live on television. CBS relegated championship games to tape delay, airing them after the late-night news. That is how little faith the network had in professional basketball. The problem, according to the people running the league, was simple. The NBA had become too black. By the late 70s, about 75% of NBA players were African American. For advertisers trying to reach white suburban families, this was seen as a problem. The media narrative around the league became toxic. Players were called selfish, undisciplined, greedy. These were not just criticisms of basketball. They were coded attacks rooted in racial fear. White audiences, the ones with the spending power advertisers wanted, were abandoning the sport in droves. Then came the cocaine story. In August 1980, the Los Angeles Times published an explosive article claiming that between 40 and 75% of NBA players were using cocaine. Some reports said 10% were freebasing. Drug use was everywhere in America during this time. Hollywood had it. Wall Street had it. The music industry was drowning in it. But the media obsessed over the NBA. They turned the drug crisis into a story about black athletes specifically. It made the league look dangerous, chaotic, and culturally alien to middle America. Sponsors fled. The NBA desperately needed a way to bring white fans back. They needed a savior. And in 1979, they found one. Larry Bird entered the NBA as more than a player. He entered as a symbol. From the moment the Boston Celtics drafted him, the media built a mythology designed to appeal to white America. Bird came from French Lick, Indiana, a town with barely 2,000 people. The press called him the Hick from French Lick. It was not an insult. It was branding. Bird represented rural, working class, white America. In an era when that demographic felt left behind by urbanization and cultural change, Bird was a lifeline to the past. Every article about Bird used the same words: blue collar, lunch pail, gritty, hardworking. These descriptions did two things at once. On the surface, they praised his work ethic. Underneath, they contrasted him with the stereotype of the naturally gifted but lazy black athlete. The message was clear. Bird earned his success through sweat and discipline. His black competitors succeeded because of genetics. Bird was the craftsman. They were just physically lucky. The most persistent racial coding was the obsession with Bird's basketball IQ. Commentators constantly marveled at how he could outthink opponents. They praised his vision, his passing angles, his ability to anticipate plays. Bird was a brilliant player, no question, but he was also 6'9" with elite hand-eye coordination and serious physical toughness. Acknowledging his natural gifts would have ruined the narrative. The media needed Bird to be the underdog who won through intelligence, not physical dominance. It reassured white fans that they could still compete in a black man's game by being smarter. This narrative got so pervasive that it eventually caused a backlash. In 1987, after losing a playoff series to the Celtics, Detroit Pistons rookie Dennis Rodman said Bird was overrated because he was white. His teammate Isaiah Thomas agreed, saying that if Bird were black, he would be just another good player. Thomas later said he was criticizing the media, not Bird himself, but the damage was done. The media erupted. Thomas was vilified. Bird was defended. The incident proved how protected Bird was as a cultural icon for white America. Bird was not just a player for the Celtics. He was the Celtics. The team played in Boston Garden, a non-air-conditioned arena with dead spots in the floor and ghosts of championships everywhere. The Celtics were marketed as old school, physical, traditional. Their front court of Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish was described as a lunch pail crew that went to work every night. For white fans across the country, rooting for the Celtics was a way to signal loyalty to traditional values without saying anything explicitly racial. The Celtics became a symbol of white competence in a changing world. Before we we go further, I want to hear from you. Did you grow up in the Bird era or the Magic era? Did you pick a side? And if you did, what made you choose? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now. This story gets darker. If Larry Bird was the great white hope, Magic Johnson was cast as his perfect opposite, the natural. The media framed Magic as pure charisma, pure talent, pure instinct. What they left out was the discipline and intelligence it took to play the way he did. Magic was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that was redefining what professional sports could look like. Under owner Jerry Buss, the Lakers embraced Showtime. It was fast-paced, improvisational, flashy basketball. It prioritized speed, dunking, and no-look passes. Showtime was not just a style of play. It was a cultural product. It aligned with Hollywood glamour, 80s excess, and a specifically black aesthetic of cool. While the Celtics were framed as workers grinding for points, the Lakers were framed as performers putting on a show. This distinction let the NBA market black culture as entertainment, as magic instead of a threat. It made blackness safe for white consumption. The way sports writers talked about Magic revealed the stereotype underneath the praise. They constantly used words like instinct and natural talent. They called his abilities God-given. They said he was a freak of nature. This language stripped Magic of agency. It suggested his success came from biology, not hard work. The narrative implied Magic played by feel while Bird played by thought. It was the old myth of the natural black athlete repackaged in a friendly tone. Magic's personality was key to making this work. Unlike the angry black athletes of the 70s, the ones associated with black power or labor strikes, Magic smiled. He was the happy warrior. His infectious joy and gregarious nature made him non-threatening. White fans could engage with black style through Magic without fear or guilt. He was successful, charismatic, and seemingly free of racial anger. Magic became the acceptable face of integration. He proved you could be black, excellent, and still palatable to suburban America. But the rivalry was not just about the players. It was about the cities and regions they represented. The NBA and CBS leaned hard into Boston versus Los Angeles. They turned the finals into a war between two versions of America. Boston represented the East Coast, old money, industrial grit, cold weather, history, and tradition. The Celtics played in a building called the Garden, a temple to the past. Los Angeles represented the West Coast, new money, entertainment, sunshine, the future. The Lakers played in the Forum, a nightclub with a basketball court attached. This geographic split let fans across the country pick sides based on cultural identity. A conservative farmer in Nebraska could identify with Bird's rural roots and the Celtics' traditional values. To him, the Lakers symbolized coastal elitism and moral decay. Meanwhile, an urban kid in Chicago might identify with the Lakers' swagger and modernity. To him, the Celtics were relics of a segregated, racist past. The NBA turned regional differences into tribal loyalty. Fans were not just watching basketball, they were fighting a proxy war for the soul of American culture. Scholars have called the Bird-Magic rivalry the acceptable race war of the late 20th century. In the Reagan era, with America splitting along urban and suburban lines, the basketball court became a safe space for cultural conflict. Fans projected their racial and class biases onto the teams without ever having to admit it. Cheering for Bird validated white working-class masculinity. Cheering for Magic celebrated the rise of black cultural power. The rivalry let these battles play out within the safe confines of a game. Someone won, someone lost. Then everyone went home. The ratings proved the strategy worked. When Bird and Magic faced off, viewership exploded. The 1984 finals pulled a 12.3 rating with 20 million viewers. The 1987 finals hit 15.9 with 24 million watching. These were cultural events, not just games. But when one of the rivals was absent, like in 1981 when Bird won without facing Magic, ratings dropped to 6.7. The public did not just want basketball, they wanted the conflict between two ideologies. This divide was not accidental. It was manufactured, amplified, and monetized by the people running the league. David Stern became NBA commissioner in 1984. He shifted the league's entire marketing strategy from teams to individual stars. Stern understood that in the television age, personalities drove ratings. He made sure Bird and Magic led every highlight reel. He scheduled games to maximize their exposure. Stern's genius was sanitizing the black aspects of the league through drug policies and dress codes while celebrating the black entertainment value of Magic, as long as it was balanced by the white stability of Larry Bird. This two-pillar strategy captured the widest possible audience. CBS played its part too. The network framed the rivalry through its production choices. The intro montages for the finals were cinematic. They used dramatic music and editing to make every game feel like a gladiatorial clash. The visuals constantly contrasted Bird's solitary, stoic warm-ups with Magic's high-fiving, smiling entrances. Commentators reinforced the stereotypes during games. They praised Bird's guts and heart. They called Magic's play unbelievable and freewheeling. Every broadcast choice reinforced the discipline versus instinct binary, but the most shameless exploitation came from Converse. In 1986, the shoe company launched the Choose Your Weapon campaign. Both Bird and Magic were Converse endorsers. The ads featured them facing off, staring each other down. The slogan was a direct command to consumers. Choose your weapon. Pick a side. The shoes were color-coded, purple and gold for the Lakers, green and white for the Celtics. The commercials played up every contrast. Bird practiced alone in an empty rural gym. Magic stepped out of a limousine onto a red carpet. The campaign did not try to unite anyone. It weaponized division. It acknowledged America was split and sold a product for each faction. It turned identity politics into footwear. You were not buying shoes. You were declaring who you were. The marketing was brilliant in its cynicism. It took the cultural anxieties of an entire generation and compressed them into a 30-second television spot. The shoes became symbols. Wearing the weapon was not about comfort or performance. It was about allegiance. Here is the part that makes all of this worse. The stereotypes were lies. The media narrative that positioned Magic as the natural talent and Bird as the hard worker was not just racist. It was factually wrong. Magic Johnson was not playing on instinct. He revolutionized the point guard position through obsessive study and preparation. At 6'9", playing point guard was not natural. It was a physical anomaly that required immense coordination and basketball intelligence. Magic's flashy passes were not reckless. They were calculated reads of defensive positioning. That is a cognitive skill, not a biological gift. Meanwhile, Bird was not just a grinder. He was a savant with exceptional natural touch and spatial awareness. Those are gifts you cannot learn through repetition alone. Bird was also a legendary trash talker, a trait usually linked to urban streetball culture. But when Bird did it, the media called it competitive fire. When black players did it, they were disrespectful thugs. The double standard was glaring once you saw it. The irony is that the commercial mechanism designed to exploit their rivalry ended up creating their friendship. During the Converse shoot in French Lick, Magic ate lunch at Bird's mother's house. The two realized they had more in common than anyone knew. Both came from poverty. Both were obsessed with winning. Both respected the game above everything. Their friendship grew through the late 80s and eventually helped break down the racial animosity the league had profited from. But for most of the decade, the public consumed them as bitter enemies. The reconciliation came later, after the money was made. So did the NBA use Magic and Bird to divide America? Yes, but it is more accurate to say the league weaponized a division that already existed. The NBA did not create racism or class resentment. It just turned those things into a product. By holding up a mirror to a fractured nation, the league made itself relevant again. It invited the country to fight its culture wars on a basketball court where the stakes felt real but the consequences were contained. The strategy worked. The rivalry saved the NBA. It taught the league that conflict drives consumption. Selling a narrative became as important as selling a sport. The Choose Your Weapon campaign proved that fans will pay to express their identity, even when that identity is rooted in division. This blueprint shaped everything that came after. It paved the way for Michael Jordan, a black athlete who transcended the binary to become a universal brand. But it also normalized the idea that sports should exploit cultural fault lines for profit. The legacy lives on today. Every sports league now understands what the NBA proved in the 80s. Storylines matter more than statistics. Rivalries drive ratings. Drama sells tickets. The modern sports media industrial complex is built on manufacturing conflict, turning athletes into characters and ongoing narratives that fans consume like television shows. We see it in how the media frames player beefs, and how social media amplifies every controversy, and how marketing departments engineer tribal loyalties between fan bases. Magic and Bird did not solve America's problems. They dramatized them. The NBA turned the tension of the 1980s into the most lucrative spectacle in sports history. And in doing so, it proved a dark truth about entertainment and commerce. Division sells, conflict pays. And when given the choice between healing a wound and monetizing it, the league chose the money. Every single time. The question we should be asking now is whether we have learned anything. Are we still buying the same product, just repackaged for a new generation? When we pick sides in modern sports debates, are we making authentic choices or are we responding to narratives designed to make us choose? The NBA held up a mirror in the 80s. What we saw was ugly, but instead of looking away, we kept watching. We are still watching.